Here's a scene you don't see often on my layout. That is a train running. Look at that. And that is something we should see more of on our layouts. I've been thinking about it lately. And I've spent a lot of time on the scenery the train's running through right now, which has been a lot of fun. Don't get me wrong, I've really enjoyed that, but I'm building a model railroad. And I want to be able to run trains again. So that's what we're going to be focusing on here for the next little bit. Getting ourselves in position to be able to run trains again. And that right there is the grand total of runnable track on my layout right now. So as I pan the camera a little further that way, that's where we're going to be focusing our efforts. All right, so from where the train's parked, panning this way down the yard, is a blank slate. And so I've got this gap in between backdrops from where the old layout had to be cut to move to the garage. And I want to work in this area here because that'll allow me to stitch the yard over into the creek scene, which is not even lit yet, but the benchwork was built last year. And here you can see a little bit of Manchester in the foreground, right? Manchester still lives, it's just not in the layout yet. So before I do any of the track work over in this area, I want to get the backdrop straightened out. And so what I've got, I don't know if you can see it, if I pan up just a little bit, there's a piece of tape up there. I've actually got a piece of twine run along the top of the backdrop all the way over to the end of the creek scene. You can kind of see right there the twine hanging there near the trees. I've got it taped on the top to get accurate measurements because I've got a coved backdrop in the corner here and I don't know how to measure that otherwise. So I've got a string along it. I'm taking key measurements, right? So this is a seam. This backdrop on the right, this is a 60-inch section that had to be cut right there. So I'm probably gonna replace that. I'll run it through the corner and I need to think about how I wanna tie in to the backdrop on the creek scene. Unfortunately, both ends of that one had to be cut to get it moved. It's kind of wedged back behind a bunch of trees on the right side. And so it's gonna be tricky. If I wanna replace that, that's tricky. Those trees probably all have to come out. The bottom of the backdrop has to be cut because there's a little knoll up against the bottom, like the bottom inch or two would have to be cut off, which is how I got that one on. Because I did that section wrong. I did the backdrop after the fact. I'd already done a lot of that scene and I came back and put the backdrop in. That's not the right way to do it. So in the corner, I'm not gonna do that. I'm not even gonna lay track before the backdrop goes up because I don't want it to be in my way. So I gotta think long and hard and maybe talk to Joey a little bit at Trackside Sceneries, get his thoughts on how I wanna do this. But the left side of this at least is fairly straightforward. I think I'm gonna remove this from the seam that way and put something nice in through the corner. And then I want to start thinking about track work through here. I want to finish the yard. I want to get the industry tracks where they're going to be. And as I'm stitching my layout back together, right, this is the next seam. I want to incorporate the creek. I've already got it on benchwork, etc. So first step is backdrop. So I got to think about that. I'll let you know what I come up with. All right. I've been scraping little bits of paper out of the adhesive. This is in two different places. So I did actually end up removing actually, you can see I removed all the trees from along the back over there. And then I tore the backdrop off. And I started to scrape with a little scraper. And then I got to thinking, I don't really want to tear backdrops out again if I have to move this layout or rearrange things or whatever. So I'm gonna mount I'm gonna order some new backdrops, like I said. So from here, the seam here, going that way, 4 60-inch sections will get me about midway through or 2/3 of the way through the creek over there. So that's what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna mount them to sheet styrene, which is something I saw over on the Seaboard Central. I asked a question, oh gosh, about a year or two ago. Like, hey, how did you salvage these backdrops? Because I was moving my layout when he was moving his. And anyway, he said, yeah, I put them on styrene sheet. So I'm researching where to get styrene of that size. I need them, 18-inch by 60-inch. That's way bigger than the normal sheet. So found a couple places online. I've got a couple questions out there. We'll see what we get. But the idea here is I will stop scraping and instead spend my time doing something else until I get these backdrops up. But the plan is gonna be to mount them to sheet styrene, like big long pieces of sheet styrene. And then I think he said he used double-sided tape to actually mount them, the sheets to the existing backdrop structure. So I think that's what I'm gonna try to do. I'm not sure how that's gonna work through the cove, but that's not that sharp of a turn over there, so I hope it works okay. And yeah, that's where we're at. Decisions have been made. Only thing I did modifying scenery there is removing the trees. It looks like I've completely torn it out, but the field and the creek and everything are completely intact. So no real damage other than just having to plant some new trees along the backdrop. And you can see there's a little throwback there for you. Way back before I had photo backdrops, I did attempt to actually paint the back, and it looked okay. My blue is not the right blue with some backdrop in the foreground from Manchester here, and that blue you can see it was just too blue. I didn't even bother with clouds or haze because I just didn't feel like I was up to that. So anyway, that was the old way I did it, and then I put the photos right over top of it. So more to come once those come in. I do have some designs, and I'll start while I'm waiting for things to be delivered and questions to be answered, etc. I will start on the warehouse that's going to go here. So that'll be kind of my next thing as I'm gearing up to get this area built. So I think I'll leave it here. It's kind of a lot of talking and planning, but like I said at the beginning of the video, one of the things I want to focus on this year is getting my layout into a position where I could really run trains again. And so, stitching these pieces together, and then beyond that, even starting to extend, there'll be another section over on the creek scene going to the right and eventually coming around behind this existing peninsula that's here that doesn't go anywhere yet. But on the other side of this, there is, that's where Manchester will be, running parallel. So it'll be a 90-degree turn over there, coming back this way. And so I'm thinking about some bench work and stuff too. But let's start in this corner. Let's get some track work in. There'll be more structures and scenery to do all through here, while I also do bench work and track work, pressing off left to right. So that's the plan. We'll do one more structure and come back with all this stuff. But yeah, I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody had a happy new year. Thanks for sticking with me, and looking forward to more in 2023. Be well and safe, y'all.